Hey there crew, Brandon here. Welcome to another Masks Monday, the show that brings your game from zero to hero. Today we're going to be talking about two moves for Masks: A New Generation, Comfort and Support, and Provoke Somebody. This is the third installment in this little mini-series where I'm breaking down the basic moves for Masks: A New Generation. If you haven't seen the other two, they might also interest you, but we're coming in on the end of having all of your basic moves, which means you can have the skeleton of your game really running. I put these two moves together not because they're super related to each other, but just because I don't think either one of them requires a full episode. So, let's go ahead and just dive in. When you comfort or support someone, roll plus mundane. On a hit, they hear you. They mark potential, clear a condition, or shift labels if they open up to you. On a 10 plus, you can also add a team to the pool or clear a condition yourself. Comfort and Support is actually one of the moves that most captures the feel of Masks: A New Generation. It's a move that really focuses you in on the emotional connection between the characters, which is absolutely vital for a Masks game. If you're not using Comfort and Support, maybe you should start using it, because it can build some really interesting scenes. Being very clear, Comfort and Support isn't just the attaboy move. It's for if you're doing something legitimately emotional. It's having a conversation with someone that you provide them actual emotional comfort. Now, this can be done in a whole bunch of different ways, and so I don't want you to get too bogged down on your general view of what an emotional response looks like. Consider what it means for your character to really open up and bring somebody close. Now, as soon as you've done the comforting or supporting, you need to make the roll. Remember, to do it, you do it. And the trigger of the move is when you comfort or support somebody. So you start with the roll, and if you get the 6-, that result happens whether or not the person would have opened up to you, because that's the second requirement of it. None of the results of this move on the 7 to 9 occur unless they open up to you. Now, if you rolled a 10 plus, you still do get the really nice positive benefits of feeling good because you've made a connection with a teammate, but they don't get to feel better unless they show some response. That's a really awesome thing because it means that we have two different players at the table, or a player and an NPC, both showing what's going on in their mind. Maybe that opening up is having some conversation back, having some dialogue that returns. Maybe that opening up is just having like an impromptu kiss that just elevates the romance of your comic. Either way, that needs to happen for those 7 to 9 things to go through. Basically, if the target of the move wants to get a positive effect, then they need to open up. Worth noting, this is another one that tends to be used on your teammates. So, if you have influence on them, don't forget to use that +1. Anytime you use a move against somebody you have influence on, you get that +1. There's not that much that needs to be discussed in terms of what the options of the move are, because they're pretty mechanical. The thing that's really interesting is actually not the mechanical side of it, but the narrative side of it, where you're having this emotional conversation. The mechanics are basically just like a little gimme. I guess the big thing that's worth looking at is that if they choose to shift their labels, they should probably shift labels in a way that makes some sense. They're hearing what you're saying about them in a positive way. If you're telling them that they aren't a scary monster that's going to destroy the city, they shouldn't be raising their danger, because that doesn't make any sense. Another thing that's worth looking at is the snowball of this move. When you're talking about someone's emotional state, it's real likely you're telling them how the world works. And if someone is opening up to you when they're being comforted, they're probably expressing a weakness. Just be aware of those things, because those are other moves that come into play really often on this. It's awesome to see a comfort and support that moves right into an expressing weakness. Like, I feel so much better having talked to you, but also I'm letting this off my chest right now. And do you think that I'm a hero, or do you think that I'm just the same dark future that I've always been? Yeah, I tend to go with the innocent as the example. It's the one I play most often. On a 6-, remember the GM is making a move. That can be any move at all. It does not need to be a move that specifically has to do with what's going on. Now, that could be showing some future badness. I like using this as an opportunity to do some interstitials with dark figures looking at monitors. It can be reversing the effects of the move and saying like, hey, you made them feel worse. Or it can be any number of other things like that. Two heroes in costume having a conversation is a great time for like some reporters to show up. The last thing I want to note with this move is that it can be used in combat. Yeah, I know that sounds weird. This isn't just the hanging out at home move. Whatever situation you are in, Remember it and keep it in mind. Just because you are involved in a fight doesn't mean you can have a little moment of tenderness that builds you up and gets you ready for the rest of it. That's a fantastic opportunity to tie the two sides of masks, the emotional and the superheroic, together. Alright, we're just flying through at this point. Time to move on to provoke someone. When you provoke someone susceptible to your words, say what you're trying to get them to do and roll plus superior. For NPCs on a 10 plus, they rise to the bait and do what you want. On a 7 to 9, they can instead choose one. They stumble, you take +1 forward against them. They err, you gain a critical opportunity. They overreact, you gain influence over them. For PCs, on a 10 plus, both on a 7 to 9, choose one. If they do it, add a team to the pool. If they don't do it, they mark a condition. That's a more complicated move right there. This maybe could have used a whole video. Glad we got comfort and support done quickly. The trigger. When you provoke someone susceptible to your words. So, that does not mean just everybody. If they are not susceptible to your words, the move does not trigger. You just kind of said something to somebody. Now, what are some ways to get someone to be susceptible? If you have influence over them, they are susceptible to your words. That's what influence means. If you can show them a good reason why they should care what you think, that's another awesome one. If you can put them into an awkward situation or roll them back on their heels, that's another great one. Whatever the reason for their susceptibility, it's a perfectly good reason to use the move. Another thing is that if someone's on your team, they're probably at least somewhat susceptible to your words, even if they don't have influence over you. That's something you can kind of talk to about the table and work things out. So, next step. From this trigger, you have to do a specific action, which is saying what you're trying to provoke them to do. You're not just trying to kind of get a reaction, whatever. You're trying to specifically have them do a specific action. This could be running away, this could be facing you directly, this could be telling the truth about something. You're trying to get a specific action and you need to say it for the whole table to hear, including the GM, including the player you're targeting. For NPCs on a 7 plus, you have had some kind of an effect on them. They might not necessarily do it, but they are definitely connected to it in some way. Oh, worth noting, if you have influence, and that's why they're susceptible to your words, you do still get that +1. So keep track of your influence. On a 10 plus with an NPC, they just do it. It's really simple, it's done. They do the action. There can be some unintended consequences of that action, but remember that this was the player getting a 10 plus and you should give them what they want in a general sort of sense. On a 7 to 9, you've got a choice. You can either have the NPC do it or choose one of those options. The 7 to 9 options means they don't do it. If they stumble, then you get a +1 forward, which means you're able to basically take the fact that they're rocked back on their heels to come at them. They're confused or they're trying to figure things out, and you get an opportunity. They're trying to figure things out or they're rocked back on their heels, and so you're able to just be a little more effective against them. If they err, you get a critical opportunity. Essentially, they open themselves up to something that you're able to then take immediate advantage of. Depending upon the situation, this might mean that you don't have to make a roll in order to do the thing. If you're trying to provoke someone to come fight you and they err, maybe this is a chance for you to dart past them and get to the hostages. And then you don't need to make a roll for it. You've got that critical opportunity. If they overreact, you get influence over them, which is a really nice, fun thing to have on pretty much anybody. That influence is going to be helpful for the rest of the fight, but if they've overreacted, things have probably gotten much worse also. So just keep that in mind. Remember that this also can be used on heroes, so that overreacting can be something that isn't necessarily like a big villainous moment, it's just something that things have changed. And that's the fundamental interesting part of this move, is paying attention to how the mechanics go together with the narrative changes. Just a +1 forward isn't interesting, show them stumbling. Just a critical opportunity isn't interesting, show their error. And getting influence is great, but that overreaction is so much better. Let's see Captain America just flip a table. That will be rad. For player characters, it's a little bit different. Instead of basically taking control of their action, you're offering them a carrot or a stick in order to get them to do what you want. On a 10 plus, both the carrot and the stick are on the table. Essentially, if they do what you say, then we all get a team and we're all happy. If they don't do what you say, then they mark a condition and they suffer for it. On a 7 to 9, instead you're making the decision whether you're offering a carrot or a stick. They still get to decide what they're doing. So you either tell them, if you don't do this, you mark a condition, or you tell them, if you do this, we all get a team. You can kind of look at the tone of what's being said to provoke the person to make a decision on which one makes more sense. This also ties into Take a Powerful Blow, which I'm going to probably be addressing in my next video. The exact interplay between these moves is a really complicated one that may end up getting its own video at some point. But on a basic level, if you took a powerful blow and you chose to provoke a teammate and they're susceptible to your words, then you did it, so you have to do that. Either way, if it's against an NPC or a PC or whatever, if you roll a 6-, then the GM makes a move. Remember, this doesn't just mean that you don't provoke them, it means something changes. Because your teammate was distracted by you shouting at them for help, the enemy gets a chance to come in. Because you wasted time trying to provoke the enemy, the side of the building explodes, and suddenly things are much worse off. So those are our two moves that change people's emotional states in Masks. It's kind of a tenuous connection. I did my best to give it a good theme, but either way, these two are both vital. They add a huge part of the emotional drama to this game that is about superheroics and emotional drama. Don't ignore them. They're a great opportunity. And don't make it so that your NPCs are immune to this stuff. If the player starts really talking in an emotional, meaningful way to your villain that's trashing the city, consider what that villain needs right now. If you've got a mutated, scary-looking villain, I'd say there's a good chance that they could use someone to talk to. And having that opportunity means that you can have some conversation going back and forth. And just because you've opened up to somebody doesn't mean you have to stop punching them. That's still an option that's on the table. A lot of the best moments in comics are driven by the villain opening up and then continuing to blast things with lasers. I guess what I'm saying is open up to your friends and blast them with lasers. Next week, we're going to be talking about what happens when your friends blast you with lasers, or when comforting and supporting goes very, very badly with the move Take a Powerful Blow, which is hands down my favorite basic move. Until then, if you liked this video, why not give it a like and subscribe? It costs you nothing, and it makes it easier for me to get my videos to more people. And if you want to be sure you don't miss it, ring that bell. If you'd like to find me online, find me on Twitter at Dr. Captain Cobalt, or go to Leon-Gambetta.com. I'm currently in the process of trying to figure out where to go next with this channel. I want to expand it, and I'm getting better at doing these videos in a more timely manner, so let me know in the comments what kind of content you'd like to see. I'm pretty much open to anything tabletop RPG and comics related. I'm considering doing a series that helps people get into comics. If that interests you, let me know. And of course, more videos on how to make our very favorite characters in our very favorite game. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, keep being a force for good in a world that hates and fears you. See you later, folks.